We are live. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to this week's edition of Talk About It Tuesday. Today, I was going to be on the feed myself talking about a bowling ball, but the other half in my household decided that since she's thrown the bowling ball, she should be on the program tonight.
No, I just simply asked.
Here she is, off to my right. Carrie Smith will be joining me tonight, so we're going to have her as a guest here as we go over and talk about the newly released Columbia Authority Solid. So before we get into any type of questions or start talking about the ball on that side, as always, we always do kind of the techie portion of it where we kind of go over the numbers of the balls and kind of the intention and stuff. Hey, Chelsea, how are you? Good to see you. Glad you could join us. So the Authority Solid is the second release in the Authority line. If you remember back, the original Authority was a Pearl version, and now we have seen the Solid version, which has the ERT 2.0 Solid cover stock instead of the Pearl version, and it has that same Authority core. So the Authority, the original one, very big asymmetrical piece. Definitely a very clean piece with a lot of downlane motion for an asymmetrical ball. This one, same numbers, obviously, 2.503, 050 with an intermediate diff of 020. So a lot of motor in the ball. Also features the ever popular from the Columbia brands. It has the dynamic core in the ball, and it also has the dot technology that was brought over from the Brunswick side of things. So those two combined give you ultimate drilling freedom, basically, and you have that extra hitting power that we see with the dynamic core bowling balls. You may have heard of the ERT before. If you remember back to the previous Columbia balls, it was kind of made popular in the Baller series. So if you were a fan of the Baller, which was a symmetrical release, it definitely was the first time they used that. And it was basically trying to get that lastrometric portion of the bowling ball, or the footprint, if you will, to be a little bigger for a little more traction in the mid lane. And it's worked pretty well. So the Baller had a ERT hybrid cover stock. And actually, you're going to see that in an upcoming release that was just announced, where they've actually taken that ERT hybrid and wrapped that into the dynamic swing that's going to be coming out, which I had a chance to throw down the lane, and it definitely has a very big footprint to it. So a lot of exciting stuff coming out of that. But, from the tech side of it, we're here talking about a very large bowling ball, asymmetrical piece with a lot of teeth to it. So we are going to throw this one down the lane on Thursday, as always. And we'll have a couple different testers this week. One of them will not be me, so I will be the one talking for a change. I'm not going to have to try to bowl. I actually do not have this one personally in my bag, but Carrie, who's joined me tonight, does, and put it in action this past weekend. And I'm also going to be joined by Columbia 300 staffer Chelsea Merklinger, Columbia 300 staffer Darren Zombro Jr., and then we're going to have a guest on, which will be new to our Throw It Thursday segment, which is a Purett staffer of ours that's going to be throwing a demo ball, and that gentleman is going to be Paul Moore. So a different type of release there from Paul as well. So you'll get to see it from the left side. You'll get a little kind of a straighter, obviously, player and Carry a little firmer. Chelsea, little spinny, gets her hand around it a little more. And then Paul is he's pretty much, speed and res, maybe a little bit speed dominant, but very large track circumference. So he really gets up the backside of the ball a lot. So it'll give us something unique to watch. So since Carrie joined me, and before, I just talk and talk, but since Carrie joined me, we figured we'd at least let her, talk a little bit about, her first impressions of the ball. I do know, before she speaks, she didn't throw it that often before it saw some action on the lanes this weekend. So, Carrie, why don't you tell us what, where you were bowling for one this weekend, what you were bowling on, and kind of what you saw.
I decided at the last minute to bowl the regional in Wilmington, Delaware this past Sunday, and we bowled on 44 feet Mark Roth, I believe. So this was definitely one of the. Why are you shaking your head at me?
Carmen Salvino.
Oh, Carmen Salvino. Sorry, I get
Can't take her anywhere.
I'm sorry, but it was 44 feet. That I do.
That is correct. 44 feet on a very new install
Yes.
SPL surface.
Anyway, sorry, I messed up your feet already.
Yep.
Anyway, so this ball definitely came out of my bag because for me, 44 feet is hard. I don't have the rev rate or the hand that the guys do. But I decided to go out there and do me, which is, play the part of the lane that I'm comfortable with. Instead of being way inside, like most of the guys try to start, I was actually what Jeff calls throwing it over my left toe, kind of off the gutter, so to speak. But this ball was amazing on it. It got through the higher volume of oil, and once it got down lane, it definitely went through the pins like a truck.
So would you, comparing it to some of the other balls, obviously you have, for instance, a Hammer Redemption Solid in the bag. Like, how would you, maybe you'll get a question here, but is it the earliest ball in your bag? Do you feel like it has the earliest motion out of all the ASIMs?
Yes, it definitely is earlier. It definitely is earlier. Yes, for sure.
Definitely is earlier. Okay. And, some of that, this ball surface out of box is 500, 1000. So definitely a lot of teeth to it. And as questions come across here, Brandon Hinderer looks like put one up. How does it differ from a Aero? Ebonite Aero. It's quite different, Brandon. The Ebonite Aero is definitely cleaner. Definitely gets through the front part of the lane more than the Authority, and has a completely different motion in the mid lane. The Authority is much earlier in the solid version and digs in a lot. So I know there's another comment on here that says the Aero is definitely stronger. I'm actually going to go the other realm of that. Actually, the Authority Solid here is actually the stronger piece. Even from a differential standpoint and the cover, this cover is just very, very teethy. Okay, that solid cover stock on the footprint of the ball paired with just for Carrie, a normal layout, which is about a 4.5-inch pin for her. Definitely saw a lot of lane time there, and it was a unique surface. It's a very very high friction SPL surface. When you hear 44 feet, you ultimately think most people are going to be in. There was a ton of different angles being played at that regional. It was a very, very tough environment. I will say that where Carrie played him, excuse me, where Carrie played him to the right is where some of the, the guys ended up migrating to as well. Some of them did it with urethane. Others did it with some hybrids and stuff. But the kind of the middle part of the lane or the track area of that building was very difficult to get the bowling ball to stand up the same way each time. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot more angles through the front part of the lane just to kind of control it. So we saw a lot of asymmetrical balls going down the lane, just trying to kind of play the fronts a little more, get it to burn off. And, I think that's why Carrie saw what she saw with the Aero. So, when she says about throwing it over the left toe, Carrie's obviously a very, her hand's very forward, very low tilt player. So she can actually has no problem getting the ball through the front portion of the lane, but, obviously we got to get the ball to tip. So we need to, find friction at times. And, she was sliding into, I think Nick Rhines had taken some photos, and it was pretty cool because it really shows just how far right she was, because you could see in the thing she was sliding into 4 and throwing it legitimately over her left toe. And we call it headhunting. So it is what it is. You have to remember, we talk so much about this on feeds and stuff, is you have to play your game. It's good to be versatile, but if your trick, if you will, works on the pattern, no matter what the name of that pattern is, what the length is, how they tell you should play it, you always attack an oil pattern based off of what the lane is telling you at once. Okay. For me, I struggled a little bit, and by a little, I mean a lot. I split a ton at that tournament. I went through every ball in my bag. And ultimately, I ended up outside just like she was. I did it with a Web Tour Hybrid, just with a little bit of a quicker speed off the hand and a little more forward. But definitely, this, going back to the Authority Solid, this thing just, it digs. I mean, I watched Paul Moore, who you get to see throw this next Thursday. He was testing out some of the demo balls last week, and he had thrown a blood red, and it was a longer pattern. I think I had 45 feet down last week, and it was a longer pattern. He's throwing a blood red, and then I had him throw an arrow, and then we pulled this Authority out, and this thing was just, I mean, insta hook in the front part of the land. Thing just grabbed. So pretty impressive. How big of a ball it is and how early it is, but how much it still, didn't feel like it kind of, deflected or it wouldn't go through the pins correctly. So
I just want to, I know there's a lot of comments coming up about the arrow. I actually did throw my arrow in practice at the regional as well. So I did, can kind of compare the two. I could strike with both of them. However, the arrow, like Jeff said, it was just a little too clean, and I felt like I had to throw it perfect with the arrow, where I had, a little miss with the Authority Solid just because it's just so earlier. So, but yeah, I totally agree with that.
Right. So another one coming through here, Tommy Abrams. How you doing, buddy? Considering the dynamic swing will be out soon from Columbia, which ball would you recommend? Well, Tommy, it's a pretty good question. I mean, obviously, not just with Columbia, but all the previous EBI brands. If everyone isn't aware, when Brunswick Bowling Products acquired the old Ebonite International brands, what they didn't do is they didn't bring along the inventory of the current balls with them. And so what I mean by that is that when they bought up all the assets, the balls that were in the warehouse ended up just being sold out to distributors. So it wasn't like they had a stockpile of bowling balls and a continuation of the lines. So basically why you're seeing, a lot of releases right now and what they're going through and doing is that they're completely rebuilding arsenals, because you basically was like starting from scratch. So, when you see these releases pretty hot and heavy right now, which we're doing a lot of, it's to basically, build an arsenal from top to bottom within each one of those four brands. So where I'm going with this is this dynamic swing that you're seeing, while it has that old traditional, dynamic, the core you saw in some of the swing series, this one's going to have that ERT hybrid cover stock, which was on the baller. But based on that, this thing's going to fit very nicely between the Authority Solid and the Authority, the original Authority, which was a Pearl version. So you're going to have kind of that hybrid that goes in the middle. So it really depends what you're looking for. I had a chance, like I said, I did not throw the Authority Solid, but I had a chance to throw the dynamic swing a little bit. And, for me, I do need higher volumes of oil to throw, bowling balls that are kind of that big in asymmetry and, kind of dig in that much, just because of how much my bowling ball tends to read the body of the lane based on my release characteristics. So for somebody that, might be what I would refer to as a tweener, or somebody who likes to play up the track or a little firmer ball speed, I think you're going to feel like you might like the dynamic swing a little more. It might feel a little more versatile on a league pattern, if you will, because it's not quite as early as the Authority. So remember, when you're building out arsenals and doing those things there, it's important to understand, what is it filling in your bag, right? What gap is that filling? But it's a great question that comes up on that. The other thing that's really good about this is all of these bowling balls really take well to surface adjustments as well. So I hit a swing and brought it up a little bit by hand on mine, and it easily came up. So it's plenty soft enough to make those adjustments as well. So it looks like we got one coming through for Carrie on here on this ball. And look who it is. It's Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea. Carrie, since you have thrown the Redemption Solid and the Authority Solid, what did you see was the biggest difference for you?
Definitely the Authority Solid is teethier.
Is that a word?
Yeah. Yeah.
Teethier?
Teethier.
Teethier.
It's your word of the night.
Teethier.
It's got more teeth to
Somebody
it.
look that up. Can somebody look that up on the Google?
The Google. It's definitely earlier. They're both big pieces, but I definitely think the Authority Solid is way stronger. Yeah. That I ran out of things to say.
Yeah, you blanked out. It happens sometimes when you're doing a ton of talking, but definitely, my first impressions of this ball is, it's gonna need oil, folks. Okay, if you're a higher rev player, okay, is it going to be my first ball out of the bag in league? No, it's not. I'm not going to throw this in league very often. And if I do, it's going to be short. Okay. So, I've a couple weeks here in league. I've been going pretty well. I mean, we all kind of work together and kind of have a feel for what the house does that we bowl in. And if we do start on the bigger pieces, we can pretty much anticipate we're going to get out of them, maybe by the end of the first game but it really just depends which pair we hit in the house. So, for instance, one of our staffers, Kevin Bandrowski, who was on Monday night last night with us that you got to meet, he started last night with a Ebonite Aero, which looked fantastic. But, as the front of the lane starts to go away and you need to create a little more angle and kind of taking that big step, to the left, we tend to migrate into hybrids or symmetricals and, something that's going to retain a little more and miss kind of the front part of the lane and then let the back end of the lane take it. So Kevin just popped in here and said, yeah, it was good last night, game one. So absolutely. Mike Martins, for my style, the outside where this fit my arsenal. Mike, not a bad ball for you. If you would, even for yourself, for seeing oil, being that you're really, really up the back end of the ball. I think some of the other big asymmetrics that you have in your bag would almost feel like they were on top of this because of you're being a little speed dominant. So, for you, I think, what's in your bag right now, because you have the Aero and you have some of the other things, like if you really wanted to refine that a little more, we're going to do it a little more with a pad. We're going to do it with some surface, just because we can control that front to back movement even a little more. As opposed to just trying to get a little teethier, asymmetry in the ball. So, is this one I would say, yeah, Mike, this is a really good one that I think you should throw in your bag right now. Great ball, but I think you have other bowling balls in your bag already that would be too close in proximity to this one and make it feel like it's, it's kind of on top of another one. So you'd have to make some pretty big adjustments. So
honestly, this ball is not in my league bag. It's in the tournament bag only.
She should put it in her league bag because she got stomped again this week, and she's about to lose her anchor position for good because she's not very good at hanging people anymore. She's not Dikembe Mutombo. You don't even know who that is. You can't even say Mutombo, probably. Can you say Dikembe?
Did you say Jumbo?
Yeah, Jumbo. Jordan Schell, how does this ball look with a little shine on it? It's a good question, Jordan. And unfortunately, I might not have the best answer here. So I have personally never seen one with shine on it. For me, if you mean shine by adding compound or, polish, I would say, why? Drill the pearl, right? Drill the Authority pearl because it's that's what the intention of it's for. Now, with a little bit of lane shine, you may feel like it's a little cleaner, a little more versatile. But I've personally not seen one with shine go down the lane. I would just, migrate more towards the pearl and drill that one instead. And, try to, if I'm actually going to make a surface adjustment on a big piece like this, it's usually going to be even further down or, maybe not elect for shine, but, maybe go above that 1,000, right? So you can make a bowling ball cleaner without using compound or polish. I mean, we could go 2,000, 3,000, so on and so forth, and really smooth the ball down a little bit and kind of get it to lay in that skid phase a little longer before it starts to hook. So, let's see. Let's put this up on here.
I just read that.
I think somebody they used the Google. Teethier isn't even recognized as a Scrabble word. I just checked on Google. Kevin, thank you very much.
Well,
this is just another carryism.
Yes. You're all going to use it in your bowling lingo now. Teethier. That's almost, I joke around when I say, when you throw it better, you say that was more better.
because I don't English.
It's a teethier ball.
Yeah, teethier.
Use it in a
Teethier.
sentence.
All right, well, go ahead. You're the one that used the word teethier, so you need to use it
feel that
in the
this ball
sentence.
is teethier on the lane.
Solid is a solid, pearl is a pearl. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Fred. I mean that's true. I mean but if you hit any one of those with a pad, it doesn't matter, because I mean the color that is in a solid versus a pearl. I mean the colors are what make up your what is a pearl additive that's actually in the ball.
Right.
It's not the shine. So shine, compound, all that other stuff actually don't have anything to do with solid, hybrid, or pearl. I mean, that's just the additives that are put in there. But I think where you're probably going with that is, use a solid as a solid, use a pearl as a pearl, which most times I agree with. But I will tell you that, a pearl cover stock that's super, super shiny off the shelf, I'm not going to use it that way. I'm going to hit it with a pad and bring it down a little bit, because it kind of wakes it up. Some examples of that. We've done reviews, Throw Thursdays and things along those lines. But for instance, the Prism Warp Hybrid. Okay, Prism Warp Hybrid is really good at the box finish, but you hit that thing with a pad and just, even if it's like a worn out 2000 or 1000, and that ball just wakes up. Blood Red Jab, another one. The Uppercut, when I had that one in the bag, was thrown at a ton. Not box surface, pearlescence additives that are in the ball. But I definitely brushed off that compound, and that is very seldom. Like, especially, I'll be honest with you folks, like if you're bowling a regional, or especially the national tour, I couldn't tell you the last time I seen a shiny bowling ball go down a lane. It's just the environment, right? It depends what we're bowling on. But with the amounts of oil that we see, or like we like to call them, like the speed bumps that are out there in a national tour, it's very seldom you're going to see something shiny go down a lane. It just doesn't read it. Too over under, and we really want to smooth out the reaction and give us the best angle of attack, and not make steep angles, because remember, a lot of time with being polished or a pearl, we don't get into those very often because we can't be that steep through the front part of the lane. It's just where it really goes to. So what do we got here? Actually excited to get this into my arsenal after listening to this. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad one, Brett. This is one we definitely talked about. This is the second one that we're going to do. I know we did you an Aero. Hopefully you're got a chance to throw that one down the lane. Interested to see your feedback on that one as well. Dom just threw up a comment in here as well. I hit my Verge Pearl with a use and abuse 1500 tonight to get the compound off it. It was great last night. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that pad you handed me last night, Dom, that I wanted, that 1500 pad, was probably about 8,000. I got some pads for you, pal. We got to get that one replaced in there. That thing might as well have just been a cloth. I don't know. There wasn't anything left on it. Couple on, we get in there. Fred, stance you back, right? I mean, I wouldn't get the Authority Solid and polish it to look like a pearl. Just get the Authority Pearl. That's all. Yep. I thought that's where you're going with that. And I agree with that. 100%. I'm a big proponent of letting the ball manufacturers dictate the arsenals. Okay. They do an extensive amount of work. When you see a ball that gets released, that ball wasn't designed yesterday, right? These balls have been in the works, and they're always working towards the next one, which is going to fill a gap. And letting them work so you can have proper progressions with your bowling balls when you're going from ball to ball to ball. That's why I talk so much about, not muddying the waters and using 20 different layouts in a bowling ball. It just doesn't make sense, folks. Aesthetically, we got to get in one with your pro shop operator. Hopefully he is me, and let me help you fine tune what really looks good to your eye. And then from there, we use that in a lot of the bowling balls, because we then let the core and the cover combinations dictate our progressions. Okay. So we're not trying, I was talking to a client earlier today where they had an older motive ball. Okay. And it was an octane burn. Okay. So it was a pearl, the blue pearl thing, not a very big ball by any means. And we ended up plugging re-drill because not a lot of hand, and it's a ball not designed to do much, and it was pinned down with a hole, and it didn't really make a lot of sense. Okay, for the player, it's not something we would have picked out. So definitely want to make sure that you're working with a pro shop operator to one, understand whatever ball we're talking about, does it fit your bag, and then two, to get it refined to the point where it matches you, right? I'm not going to hand carry here, an authority with a 1-inch pin, when she's a low tilt player, and watch it spin up and she 8-10s and wants to cut my throat because it's, this ball sucks, I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to do it to myself. Right. But a couple more here. So Brett, looks like he did throw the arrow the other night. I asked him the question. So just drilled up an arrow. Looks like he threw 730 with it out of the box, 276. Nice. Brett is one we've been working with a lot. Brett, I'm going to tell a story a little bit. I mean, he was a pretty good global supporter. Nothing wrong with that. But we did drill him up a couple Brunswick balls. And in the lines there, he started with an igniter pearl. He just had 798 with it the other night, which was an amazing set. It should have been 800, but Brett, we'll let you talk your way out of that one. But it was a very, very good night. Brett's made a couple deep runs in some tournaments too. So definitely seeing the advantages to having 7 brands at his fingertips and, understanding. And we worked a lot with Brett on fit. He's kind of unique. Brett actually uses his ring finger and his pinky from some old, injuries and stuff. And we refit him and got that paint off of there. Thanks, Brett. Yeah, it was a solid version. I'm sorry, the igniter. But we got him to the point where, he's comfortable and he's seeing ball motion, completely different now as well. So, Tommy, I didn't miss you up there. What upcoming releases are you excited about? Wow, that's there. Honestly, Tommy, there's so many good ones that are out right now. If you're looking, if you're kind of asking about the ones that were just out, like the dynamic swing and the pandemic, or the panda as we call it, and the result solid, Omni hybrid. I would say out of that run there, probably the Omni hybrid, just because again, asymmetry to the ball, but the hybrid cover stock kind of matches my eye a little more. Pretty close to I was a fan of the Redemption hybrid, but I don't get a lot of use out of the solid just because of how my ball roll is. But with a little bit of scratch in the hybrid cover stock, they seem to really see the lane very well for me. So I would say out of all of them, that one, definitely Carrie. Hers looks pretty good. We drilled her the Omni hybrid and saw a little bit of lane play. Ball is very clean, even with the light brushing on it, and it was very responsive. Dom just popped it up on there, and he's probably right. The Intimidator Pearl, yeah, that's that's probably one that I forgot to mention, but that one looks like it's going to be pretty special. I've seen that made Dave Wadka look good. And Dave, I love you. I know you're bowling league right now, and my understanding after 2, I think you beat your series from 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So that's
come on,
good.
752.
No, that's Dom.
Oh.
Dom's not bowling 752. He bowled 209 and 218 after 2. So
are you talking about Dave?
You can't read.
Continue.
I can't deal with her. She obviously doesn't read in full what she's supposed to do. You were guessing Dom's series, not Dave's.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. Goodness,
God help me. If anybody needs a roommate, I'm looking.
Come on.
I'm looking.
Can I just say one thing about I'm excited about the Omni hybrid. Like Jeff said, I did have a chance to throw that a little bit on Friday night for one of the local tournaments. It was on wood. And like you said, it is smoother, it's cleaner, but it has a little teeth to it. So it's a little teethier on the back end.
God help me. Hey, Mark just jumped in. He just got a new house.
There you go. There's your new roommate.
He has a couple spare rooms, so I think I'm going to move there. He has a nice bar too. And I think we moved all the heavy stuff. So moving me in's no big deal there at all.
Hi, Mark.
Yep. See, I got invited to get moved in. So we're good. Where I was going to that, talking about that Intimidator Pearl, but saw Wadka throw it, and I gave a shout out. I roast him all the time for being the shortest man on earth, but Timmy Foy put a video up on it. And that ball looked amazing going through the pin. So definitely one that I think, shouldn't be overlooked, because if you haven't seen the original Intimidator, the solid version, go down the lane, watch Dom throw it. Dom Motilla, not Dom Barrett, who we were just talking about.
Got it.
Dominic Motilla throws the Intimidator, and that ball is really, really good for him. And in the same wood center, he threw it the other night that Kerry was talking about. So, really, really good. Is flippy a good description of ball motion? I guess. Yeah. I guess the old term skid flip, things like that. I don't know. I mean, technically, a ball is when it goes over its axis is flipping. So I guess every ball's flippy, but maybe I like the word sharper off the spot, or faster off the friction. I think is coming, more into play for me in my mind. Chris asked, what we got here, Christopher? Omni Hybrid, is it more skid flip motion? Yeah, I guess. I meing, it's you could say that, Chris. For me, when I think of the word flip, I would think more of a pearl, but being that a hybrid is a blend of the two, I would say if you're comparing the Omni Hybrid to the original Omni was very smooth for an asymmetrical ball. It kind of reminded me of almost like a weaker version of a Proof.
Yeah.
But it, very rounded off. This hybrid version of it is, has the same kind of clean characteristics, but it's much more distinct off the spot.
Yeah, it picks up more
so
off the spot.
It picks up. It's a little quicker off the spot when it sees friction. So definitely pretty close to saying more of a flippy type motion. So did somebody really just ask if the jersey's available on our feed? I have no idea, Michael. I'm not at the center anymore. So if it's listed on the site, there may be a chance it's still available for you, but might get some. Mention your name to some guys Sunday night that might look to get some work done. All right. Is it better than Teethier? Yes, Brandon. That flippy is better than Teethier, but I mean.
How many people are going to use Teethier now when they bowl? If
you're asking for, Chris, and your next question that came up, compared to a Verge Pearl and an Omni, two completely different balls. I mean, a Verge Pearl is a symmetric ball, completely different. Again, you're dealing with asymmetry, much different ball shape than a Verge Pearl. A Verge Pearl is definitely going to be steeper. Okay, it's going to be steeper off the spot, and what I mean by that is when it hits the back end of the pattern and it sees friction, which is when the intention where you're going to use it, that ball is going to stand up way harder and create more angle in a quicker motion. So, Mike Hess, is Brunswick going to add dynamic core to the former EBI brand? So, Mike, yes, to answer that. So this ball in general, the dynamic core is in the Authority. In this Authority Solid. So if you remember the dynamic core and the dot technology, they're kind of they cross between the two. So you're going to see a lot of that. You already seen dot technology come from the Brunswick side into the what we'll call the old Ebonite brands. For us right now, we kind of get away from calling them EBI. There's no such thing as EBI anymore. So but those four brands, that were under the old Hopkinsville, yes, you're definitely going to see a lot of dynamic core. You're going to see a lot of dot technology just because it makes more sense, right? So from a drilling perspective, it's really nice, for somebody like myself or, working with a client that we can lay a bowling ball out and not have to worry about trying to stay away from the pin to, maintain warranty. And then you end up getting a situation where you don't quite have the layout you want, or, you have to talk to the client and say, well, we really want, you and I want to make this motion. We want this exact layout. So we can either just drill it closer to the pin and just understand that it won't fall under warranty at that point, or we have to go through and request, specific pins and stuff, which, it is hard for a pro shop because, everything is overhead. So, the more bowling balls that we bring in or have to do restocks or anything like that, it just creates an added expense. So Bob Allison has joined the feed here. Pappy, good to hear from you. Tremendous set last night.
Yeah.
Bob Allison, it's pretty cool story. He is 114 years old.
Woo!
And last night he bowled 792. So it can show you hard work, dedication, and a lot of white hair can lead to 790. Pappy, I love you. How is this going to work with slower speed and less hand? Slower speed and less hand, you're gonna need some oil, okay? Because this ball is going, with the slower speed, it's definitely going to want to read the front part of the lane pretty hard, and it's going to make you feel like you got to have bigger front angles, and then the bowling ball is not going to recover the way that you'd want to see it. A lot of times with slower speed and less hand, we tend to rely more on the player tends to rely more on the back end of the lane taking the bowling ball to create shape, to get it through the pins correctly. So what happens is we tend to actually migrate more for those players into symmetrical pieces. There's something that is going to be much cleaner to have, retention and really get that bowling ball to create proper angle of entry to maximize hitting, right? Because if you don't, you're going to end up, leaving a lot of wrap 10s or, over the top 7s and stuff or shakers, just because the bowling ball has kind of exhausted its energy, right? And the whole intention for any player is to match up to the environment they're bowling in and essentially get their bowling ball through the pins. And, that's my job, right? My job is to understand the player, understand the equipment, understand what we're going to put them in. And, that's one of the biggest things that I do when I talk to clients all the time when they come in is, sometimes they come in with a preconceived notion that this is the ball that they want, and they may not end up leaving with that ball. Or they might, they may say, nope, nah, this is what I want. And okay, but I'm always going to give you my feedback as to what I think is going to yield X, Y, and Z the best scores for you, because that's really what we want, right? We're making an investment in a bowling ball. And the good news for everybody out there is I'm talking through 7 brands here. We have an unlimited amount of bowling balls and resources from top to bottom that we can get one that's in those lines that is going to be for you, right? That's huge. Every single person that walks in the door with us is going to get that experience. They're going to get that one-on-one attention, and they're going to be treated the exact same way, whether I've known you for 30 years or 3 minutes, because it's about the client, right? We're going to get you on the lanes. We're going to get your access point. We're going to get your rotation. You're going to get your tilt. We have got to have all those parameters to properly drill a bowling ball that you will take out on the lanes and have success with. That's huge. Nothing more humbling and better for me to see than when my clients, my friends, they go out on the lanes and they throw a monster set. It's not because Jeff drilled their bowling ball. It's because we worked together. They got what they were looking for, and knowing that you gave them the ability to go out and just be themselves, right? That's what it's all about. All right, so a couple more. Bob is the man. This is getting crazy in here. Crazy. Looks like Chris might ask another question here. After watching the Authority being thrown, definitely might read too early for me. Looking forward to Redemption Solid and Aero. Yeah, I don't know if it'd be too early for you, Chris, but again, it really depends what your intention is. I mean, you're not going to go slower ball speed like yourself. You're not going to go and throw this thing in league. I mean, if you're putting this in the bag to bowl on something with a little more volume, by all means. But again, I think one of the things that might be important to kind of talk through, especially when we're talking about big asymmetrical bowling balls. Okay, big asymmetrical bowling balls are the way that they're marketed, right? They may be marketed by saying, this is the biggest, baddest, most hooking ball in the market, right? And, that's great, but that doesn't mean this is the biggest, baddest, most hookinest ball. Hookinest. I said something that isn't right. Hookinest.
And teethier
hookinest, right? But what I was getting at with that is that, yeah, it might be the biggest, baddest ball, but it's not the biggest hooking motion down lane, right? And too often when a client comes in or somebody's looking for ball motion, right? They say, I need something really aggressive. Okay. My question is, where do you want it to be aggressive at? Okay. Do you want it to hook at your feet? Do you want it to see the middle part of the lane, or do you want it to see down lane? Because those are all distinctly different bowling balls. Okay. So when you are in a big ball like this, we need to remember this does not mean that because we put this huge bowling ball in our hand, we can just stand where we like to stand in league and we're going to feed it to the track and this ball is going to recover because it's a big bowling ball. This ball says it's supposed to hook. Okay, great. All right. But that's just not the case. When we're throwing asymmetry, okay, and the best way I can explain this is, and it depends on the environment, but a lot of the stuff that we see locally around here is we might be able to use asymmetry to kind of, keep our angles more in front of us and let the ball read the front part of the lane until it takes shape. And as we slowly start to move left for those right-handers or right for the left-handers during the night, we tend to actually need to migrate into a ball that's going to hold energy or retain it to down lane because now we still got to get it through the pins. I'm not going to move, keep chasing it left all night with a big bowling ball that has a ton of surface because, once I get so far, the ball might stand up and it hits the pins and it's gonna plaque, right? It's just not going to go through the pins correctly. You're going to start flat tenning. You may see some designer splits because the ball is trying to read the front part of the lane because it's got a ton of surface. A lot of times it flares a bunch because of the design of it. And remember, flare is going to do what? The more it flares, it's going to try to read the front part of the lane even more, slash into the body. That bowling ball is not going to retain quite as much down lane. What we do is we go the opposite way where we go where something that's not going to flare nearly as much. And we're going to get that thing to be a lot smoother through the front part of the lane, retain energy because it's flaring less. And we're going to use the back part of the lane. We're going to use that friction down lane to get it through the pins. Okay. Fred, looks like I would love to do some ball testing. I live out near Pittsburgh. Well, you're about a 4-hour poke from us, Fred. So not too far. We definitely get people from all over. You'd be surprised how far they come in to have us work with them. So, make a trip up and see us some weekend. We are creating a new vocabulary. What am I watching? Teethy or Flippy and now hookingist. Yeah. Hookingist. That's a good one. I can't believe, as much crap as I just gave her for making up a word, it just kind of came out. See, that's what happened with me. When you talk for 40 minutes straight, even though you have a guest on who said like 8 words and one of them was teethier, you're going to trip over your words every once in a while. But, I absolutely love answering the questions. So, look, we're 42 minutes into this feed already. It's unbelievable because we can just talk for hours on ball motion and stuff along those lines. And, no question is a poor one. And, I always love answering what anybody may throw in front of us. But I mean, outside of, the Authority Solid or other thing with ball motion, I mean, what other questions might you guys have out there that you kind of want reviewed? I mean, as somebody that's so, passionate as bowling as I am, and, I love to share, I love to educate. I love to explain what's in here to everybody in whatever manner it takes to, get across to them because, it's different being a player than it is a coach sometimes. It's very hard to be both. I'm very hard on myself because I don't get in as much work as I should. Whereas, I can pick out something in somebody's game within 30 seconds and we can work on, that and have success within like 10, 15 minutes. And then, it takes me 2 weeks to figure out what I'm doing because I'm not really working with somebody or somebody seeing it. So it's, it's crazy. Hooking is more than any other word tonight. Yeah, it's
add it to your vocabulary.
Last one for me. We always ask the guest who their inspiration is. Who is yours and who is Carrie's?
Oh.
All right. So Carrie, go ahead.
You want me to go first so you have time to think?
Oh, I know mine.
Okay. I would say, I mean, a lot of people inspire me. A lot of, professional men, women. I watched them all growing up, but the one person that inspired me to be me and to be good at this sport is my dad.
Well, and bullshit.
And you just swore on your own feed.
Yep, it's my channel. Deal with it.
Is my dad and my mom. They've always been there to support me. I mean, and Jeff, but I've known my parents a lot longer.
Yeah, they're old.
But my dad is the one that really got me into the sport and taught me the basics and, took me to the tournaments and, they always pushed me. They never pressured me to be a bowler. It's just something that I was, growing up around. My dad bowled a lot when I was younger and I traveled, the travel league with him. And I just could sit and watch bowling. Other kids, when you take them to bowling alleys, they want to go play games and whatnot. Now, I had that, but I could just sit and watch bowling for hours. So definitely learned a lot from my dad. And then as I got older, he could only teach me so much. And, I learned a little bit from each person, coach that I came in contact with. And then I met Jeff. And, he's been a big part of getting me to where I am today. So, it's important to learn little bits and pieces along the way. Like Jeff said, he likes to educate. I like to do the same. It's hard to be a coach and a player at the same time, just like he said. But if you can take a piece of bowling knowledge from every experience that you have, your bank of knowledge will just grow. So, yeah.
All right, so mine's kind of a twofold. It's really hard for me to narrow down, one person from an inspirational standpoint. So I guess, this is a little twofold. So a lot of this I'm going to say just is family in general. So, my father was a huge inspiration to me, kind of, really getting to fall in love with the game, if you will. So, I grew up in a bowling center with my father. I'm of that generation where we sat there with, our father smoking cigarettes while we were learning how to keep score. And, I grew up, loving the sport from that time. And, my father would push me and support me at the same time. And then in the other realm, because sometimes they don't get enough credit, my mother was, the one who took me to a ton of tournaments. And I guess the reason I say it was so inspiring is that, my parents, they get along very well, but they split when I was at a young age. And my mom was the one, most weeks that took me to, junior tours. And, it's no secret, I'm pretty open about it. We grew up, we didn't have much money or anything like that. And, mom juggled a bunch of jobs to make things happen for me and my brother. So from an inspirational standpoint, I could say my mother was a big one there because it taught me sacrifice. Okay. And it taught me to appreciate things, I think, differently from how I was brought up. I mean, we weren't, hurting to the point where we didn't have clothes or but it was you appreciate the things you had. When I grew up, I didn't have tons of bowling balls and all this other stuff. We made do with what we had, and we got some when we could, or maybe it was like the big gift, right? You get one for Christmas or something, and that's what I use for the entire year.
Every year,
from an Easter standpoint, But, my parents were a huge part of that because, it kind of balanced the two. Dad was the one I always looked to when I wanted to kind of learn more about it and understand the game. And, I think some of it from my mother was that to be humble or to understand that, any of the opportunities that you are given, you have to make them for yourself. Right. And, I really feel like that helped me along the way because through the years as, I got out of high school and got into the job field and did things, there was a lot of times sacrifices were made to try to get to where we are today. And today, right now I'm doing 100% bowling at this point, at 42, I have a little small 8-lane center and, I'm talking bowling and I'm sitting here on, talking to a bunch of people that are tuning in to listen to us. And, it's humbling. So, I think that was a huge inspiration for me. When I look at the bowling side of it, and this might, Carrie might share some of this as well, but I have to think like from an inspiration standpoint and growing up and just watching a person who I think is the ultimate professional, it's Parker.
Yeah.
Parker Bowen III is one of the truest gentlemen that this game has ever seen. He literally is a gentleman that would give you the shirt off of his back, open his house to you, go out of his way for hours just to make sure that, someone is okay. But if I could be a person on and off the lanes, that's who I want to be. I want to be that guy that, is there for everyone and doesn't, never turns it back to anything. So, from a bowling side, Parker, from the other part, it's definitely my family. That's who pushed me. My brother's probably going to get mad if he watches this and I didn't say him, but he went off to the Navy and did his thing. So
what about me?
No. Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to help me. Just helping me. She does push me. She's pushed me a lot recently. A lot of you who have known me for a long time know, I battled tons of injuries, just tons of injuries over the years. And I bowled hurt for a very long time. Frustrated for a long time, knowing, it's very hard when you have it up here, but you can't physically, execute it out in the lanes. And, recently I've kind of jumped back in. I'm trying to become a little more competitive again. Monday nights, I'm very competitive. I mean, I'm going to be the anchor of the team probably within a week or two here because Carrie stinks. Okay, she doesn't stink, but I'm going to out average her this year. That's what happens. But from a competitive standpoint, I'm hard on myself sometimes. I don't dedicate enough time to myself. And sometimes I need a kick in the pants to say, hey, you can't be completely selfless. You got to do, some things for yourself. So, like the past couple weeks here, I drilled like 7 balls for myself, which is more than I think I drilled in like
a lot. 6
months. So a lot of fresh covers. And, you may have saw some of my posts, this week where, you just got to take the good with the bad, folks. I didn't have my greatest showing by any means at the regional. I split so often. I struggled. I struggled to see shape and lane play a little bit. I left the building. I bowled 200 the last game, which I felt like it was, it was monumental for me because I didn't split 4 times that game. The good news about that is what I said there is, it's a short-term memory because, if I sit there and I dwell about what just happened, I'm never going to bowl good the following day. I mean, it doesn't mean I can't change it. I can learn, I can extract out of there and, what went well and what went wrong, I can extract that, but I can't go back and change it. So, I do have a friend that has a DeLorean, but I don't think it time travels, but I can control what I'm going to do the next time I go on the lanes or the next time I go into a practice session. Those are the things that you can control. And when any player is out there, when you start to focus on the things you can control, it is going to go tenfold for you to the better. Okay. Take that when it's in match play, anything along those lines like that. It's frustrating when you're bowling a match against somebody and maybe they have a look or they're getting lucky, but guess what, folks? You can't change what they're doing. The only thing you can do is control the next shot that you go and throw. So when you start putting that into your mind and your repertoire and how you go about your business of going into league or a tournament and things like that, you have got to have short-term memory, learn from the failures because every great player has learned how to lose first. All right.
Yes.
There's no other way of explaining it, but it's just fun.
It's important to take the good with the bad, like Jeff said, and every bowling experience, I know I personally, when I go out on the lanes, whether I bowl bad or good, good or bad, if I win, lose, whatever, I always try to take the positive out of the experience. For instance, this weekend at the regional, I bowled really good. I was in perfect position to make a run at making the top 12 and perfect position to cash if I didn't make the top 12. Hit 1 bad pair the last game and bowled my way out of both of those positions. Did I dwell on it? No. Yeah, it sucked, but I took the positives out of it. I threw the ball really good. I made the right moves. I made the right decisions on what ball to throw. So it's really important to take the positives out of a bad situation, because that's what makes you a better athlete. And, you're going to grow from that.
Yeah, and you have to. I mean, one of the things we talked about when we came home was just kind of like before we left, it was nice. We got to see, hang out with some friends. Dave Waka was down. Don Barrett was there. We got to have the, dinner with Don Barrett, who's a U.S. Open champion, and our other friends, Mike Zangi and Pants Pulisic, and, talking about bowling and things like that. When you don't bowl well, sometimes, you think, oh, well, I need a break. Blah, blah. What do we talk about? We're like, hey, there's a regional 7 hours away in Toledo in 2 weeks. And we're like, you know what? It's a long drive, but we're going to go because you need to get on the lanes. You need to bowl. You need to keep putting yourself in position to take it to the next step. Right. And myself, pushing myself to bowl more and more competition and get out there and, expose myself and learn. I want to do more of that. And, whether we hate being in the car for 7 hours or not, we're going to pick up and we're going to go bowl at tournament. Right. Yeah, it's fine. The good news is there's 3 of us that actually have licenses that are going in that car. One of them is not Joe. But we're going to make the trip out there. So it should be fun.
Plus I got the bat signal.
Yeah, it is on short. So, but craziness.
It'll be fun. I'll bowl on anything.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, though, we are at 56 minutes, believe it or not. It was a long day. I was, left the center in time just to come here and do the feed. We've been smelling the food that's been cooking all day in the crock pot. It's almost 9 o'clock, and I didn't eat yet, so I may end up with that's actually hair. That's not a double chin. That's a 5 o'clock shadow there. But I think we really both enjoyed talking tonight. And I'd have no issue at any point, adding additional segments, or if you guys have things that you'd really like to get more information on or educated on, or a topic that you'd like for, me to review or for multiples to review, feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk in detail and help you to be the best version of yourself. Okay. So again, we were here tonight to talk about the Authority Solid. I think we did a really good job of that early. We talked about bowling in general, which we kind of promised on. And the good news is you'll get to see our smiling faces again on Thursday, where you're going to get to see this bowling ball go down the lane. And you'll get a couple different styles on it. And if you didn't ask the question tonight, it's another great chance to jump in on the feed while they're throwing it. And I will do my best as the MC to answer any questions you have there as well. And we will go from there.
There's just one thing I saw in the comments.
I missed one?
Yeah, it was just somebody tuning in from the U.S. Virgin Islands. So I just wanted to say
very cool.
Thanks for tuning in, because that's awesome. And I'm glad that we were informative about this ball. But yeah, so I know you're trying to find it, but
yeah, I was trying to find it. I missed that comment, so
I saw it go through. It was down farther, I think, but yeah, it was cool to see that we're getting right there.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I assume it's pronounced Junie Willock.
Yeah.
So Junie, thanks for tuning in with us. Oh, and she just said thank you both. So she is still on. So we're glad to have you there. Kevin, to answer your question, there is a chuck roast that I made today.
Yes.
In the crock pot. I worked really hard at it. I had like 3 things I had to mix together.
Yeah.
Yep. It was tough.
Yeah.
And I had to push the buttons to turn it on, the crock pot. But it smells really good, and I'm hungry. I don't miss too many meals. So we are going to tune off for the night. And just remember Teethier. And what was the other one?
Flippy.
Nah, it was Hooky.
Hookiest.
Hooky. I don't think I said hookiest, though.
Somebody help us out. What was
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I actually didn't.
Hookingest.
So it's add
those to your vocabulary.
It's okay. But again, thank you for joining us, everybody. We really enjoyed it tonight. we always sign off with the same things. Please, please, if you love bowling as much as we do, please go out and support your local proprietors. Okay. They need us now more than ever. We need to go in there as league bowlers, tournament bowlers, and support them by practicing, putting some people on the lane beds when they're at, slower times. They need us. All right. We need to support them as well, or we can't be talking about, bowling balls that are coming out there. So support your local bowling centers, support your pro shops, be good to everybody, and tune in on Thursday, and you will get to see Carrie, Chelsea, DJ, and Mr. Paul Moore. All right, folks, that's it for the evening. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Hope you did as well. Good night, everybody.
Good night.